Activity, I have to say, on social media. A lot of it is the Labour Party, I would say, essentially praising themselves and telling us all that their plan is working. This particular one caught my eye. Let's watch.
You asked us what we're doing to tackle illegal migration. This is our answer. Since July, we've already returned over 24,000 people with no right to be here, the highest returns rate in 8 years. We're dismantling the people smuggling gangs who organise small boat crossings at their source. We're cracking down on illegal working with tougher laws, requiring all companies to carry out proper eligibility to work checks, or face fines and prison time. But we know there's more to do. We will go further and faster to take back control of our borders. This is our plan for change in action.
Well, firstly, I don't mean to be rude, but whoever that was doing that voiceover, he sounded bored out of his brain. I mean, if that was me trying to sell to everybody what I'm achieving, I would like to think I'd sound a little bit more upbeat than that poor fella. He sounded like he'd just been grabbed off the street, handed a piece of paper and told, read this and do it right now. It was very odd. Anyway, Matt Goodwin, the messaging behind there, despite the fella's turn, do you agree with it? Is their plan working?
No, of course it's not working. Keir Starmer and Labour's plan is riddled with problems, riddled with holes. The small boat numbers as a start are up nearly 50% on the same time last year. They're up nearly 80% on the same time in 2023. We don't have a viable plan. We don't have a deterrent. We're giving too much welfare to people who are breaking our laws. But then we've got Keir Starmer and Labour communications directors in number 10 running around trying to basically mislead the British public. They're basically gaslighting the country, claiming they're getting control of this crisis when they are very visibly not doing so. And to be honest, Michelle, I haven't said this before, I'm actually worried about what Keir Starmer and the Labour government are doing to trust in the system and trust in democracy, because they're claiming they're dealing with this issue, but the numbers are going through the roof, and it's the British taxpayer who is having to pay the associated costs. £15 billion over the next 10 years on hotel and accommodation costs. And Keir Starmer's not being truthful with them about this.
Did you have any truth, did you have any trust, should I say, in democracy and politicians at the start of this to erode? I don't know, get in touch and tell me your thoughts. Fahima, your thoughts?
Well, I think, the problem here is Labour used to be the party of the people. Now it seems to be the party of the professionals, and it's copying reform. Instead of leading, it's chasing, and it's mimicking things that people did not vote for them in the first place. And I think that is the real problem. And also, it's not just about the fact that they're not actually clamping down on immigration. There are so many other issues that needs to be raised, which the Labour Party stands for, like welfare, education, the NHS. We've got so much shortage of skilled people to fill in even the NHS with over 100,000 vacancies. And, expenses are still high. They're targeting very vulnerable people at the moment. And it's not the way to go, across by just basically coming off the back of the by-elections of what they think that the people want, which is just reform.
Fahima, two things happened this week. Firstly, we learned immigration is the #1 issue in this country.
Only because that's the only thing being told and spoken about.
Okay. So this is what's interesting, Michelle. This is the left narrative.
No, it's not. I'm not the left. Why do you call me the left?
Can I finish? We're all talking about immigration, and that's the reason.
Well, we're not all talking about immigration.
Can I finish? We're all talking about immigration. That's why immigration is the #1 issue, as opposed to it's nothing to do with the record numbers of people who are actually coming into our country. And the second thing we've learned this week is 85% of Brits want net migration reduced below 100,000, and nearly half the country want zero migration. And you're acting as though Keir Starmer is kind of speaking up for this mad, extreme fringe. Most people in this country want less immigration. It's not that hard.
Well, I'm sorry. Now I really do feel that you are basically trying to talk for everyone when it's not the case. Everywhere else, they do not just only mention immigration. It is much more. It's the only rhetoric that I hear from people like yourself. And I'm not calling you far right or right or anything, so don't call me that, because there's certain things that I even agree with when it comes to the other side. It's not about that. We have to do so much more to get this country back in order than just immigration, and that's not going to erase any of the economics and the problems that are there. So it is really not that. It's just what you want to raise and everyone else.
as I say, it's the #1 issue in the country. That's the British people.
Because that's the telescope right now that's been put on.
That's the British people who are saying we don't want to have to deal with these record numbers of people, many of whom are breaking our laws. And it's the British people who are watching this show who are being asked to pay £15 billion over the next 10 years, 5 million a day for hotels and accommodation. You talk about economics. How about we take that 15 billion by fixing the illegal migration crisis? And how about we have 10 new hospitals for the British people? Why don't we do that?
Well, why can't we also fix the processes in the first place? It's been so long where people are waiting for their immigration status. They are not actually being processed properly. We don't have the staff. We do not have all of that. But all everyone is talking about, like as if it's just the migrants' fault themselves. There's the smugglers. There's the fact there's also foreign policy that plays a part. It is not just people that are coming there and all of them are criminals as you think, because they're not arrested when they arrive. They are there because they seek refuge, because some of them, you know, are probably not here just for the right reasons, but majority of them are, and you cannot just put all of them in one sort of scope,
like the
as what you say.
Iranian terrorists last week, who we discovered
Again, you're going to pick on one thing and say it's about everyone. It's so easy for you to do that and brush everyone under the same carpet when it's not like that. You cannot do that, and it's not fair to do and to say that if, you know, minorities are actually causing those things, it applies to everyone.
I hear you endlessly talk about fairness. My question is very simple. What about what is fair for the British people who are supporting this entire system? They are the ones who are having to pay the cost of this. And you're saying we have 160,000 people who have entered this country illegally. Their first act on entering this country is to break the law. Those people should be taken outside of the UK. They should be processed offshore, like the Rwanda plan would have done. It wasn't perfect. It needed changes. We should have processed them offshore, away from the British people, because now we have this absurd situation where this is not fair. The state is now taking British taxpayers' money, giving it to private companies like Serco, who are outbidding the British people in their own housing market to give more favourable contracts to illegal migrants and asylum seekers. You talk about fairness. My question is, how is that fair?
They are not doing that for everyone. At the end of the day, you have to understand they are all not criminals. They are all not here living in hotels. They all don't have the benefits like you think. A lot of them are wanting to work. They're just not given the process to do that. They are also needing to...
Do you think they should be allowed to work?
Well, if they are going through a process and they are actually... filling the sort of criteria that meant to be, because at the end of the day, every country has taken a certain amount. I do not think that it should be overly exaggerated with regards to everyone being criminal, everyone here being economic migrants, and they are just here to cause havoc. There are so many of them that are actually also fleeing because of the foreign policies that we have to do.
Safe and legal routes?
Because there are none.
Of course there are.
There are none. There are none, and they're not really doing that.
I don't know, 300,000 refugees over the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, we have to understand that they are doing what they feel that they can. They don't have the means all of the time to come through certain...
Everybody should just do what they want.
No, it's not. There should be tougher sort of legal processes here, done quicker, and they also need to be much more tougher laws with regards to making sure that they are not all seen like how you say, which they're not. Otherwise, they will be charged and imprisoned when they land. They're not charged and imprisoned because they're not seen as criminals. They are seen as someone who needs refuge. So we need to be able to process that. I don't believe that the boats is the best way to come. Obviously, it's causing so much damage when it comes to people losing their lives. It's not obviously the legal route. But at the same time, if you are fleeing and you are needing help and you wanting it, just because we're sitting here and we don't have those, those kind of experiences, or we don't know of people that have, it's so easy to just criminalize them and make them all when they are actually also very vulnerable.
Fahima, your starting point is always, what about the rights and the sense of fairness for people who are coming from outside of the country who are breaking our law? I'm sorry,
they're not all breaking the law. They're not all breaking the law.
You live in some fantasy land.
No, you live in a very different land.
The British culture is based on the notion of fair play, which is if people come into the country... Which is
humanitarian as well, refuge. And it's also Christian for you to also not be so hostile like you and talk like you and put everyone in that sort of boat like they are.
300,000 refugees in recent years, and you're sat there saying that we are not humanitarian. What planet are you living on?
I'm saying what you're saying now is not humanitarian.
What, that we should
What you
control our own borders? That's
I'm
not
saying
right.
that we should obviously control our own
should,
borders.
right.
No one's saying that we shouldn't.
You are.
But the way you're saying it, you're taking me out of context. I'm saying the way you're saying is that when they're coming in, or if they're coming in, they're all criminals. They're all wrong. They're all going to do something. They're all taking our money. They're all there because they just want economic sort of gain. It's not like that for everyone. And even if they want to, they want a better life because their houses, their countries are being bombed. Their countries are being bombed.
Then countries safe and legal routes. Don't break the law.
So easy for you to say when your family is not being, bombed and they're not actually
being asked to pay for the
of
crisis. I'm a taxpayer.
So
I
am
work
I.
hard.
So am
Everyone
I.
watching this show.
So am I.
Right. So why should those people be asked to spend billions of pounds every year on a crisis that their leaders refuse to fix?
Well,
How
then
is
it's
that
not
right?
their fault. It is the politicians' fault to get it right and to get those
So let's
processes
fix the
right.
crisis.
Yes, the crisis, but don't just blame the sort of migrants that are coming. It is to do with the politicians and people like yourself who are in these kind of, big sort of parties that are putting the blame on the wrong people and the wrong side. It should be fixing policies and making decisions that is also within rights of the humanitarian sort of and international law and looking after the British values. Not to say that, some of them are going to be criminal, but again, you put
Fahima,
everyone
I'm not going
under.
to take lectures on what are British values.
I'm not giving you a lecture. I'm just giving you my point of view, like how you're giving me.
Well, there you go. Two very different points of view. You at home will have a very strong opinion as well. As I just said at the start, you're always welcome to join this conversation.